Come in to the hot. Whoa, what's that? That's different. Hold on. I just hit a button on accident. Music. Wait, we've got music that we can use here. Hi, folks. Welcome into the High Noon Rant stream, whatever you want to call it. Typically, we do this Monday through Friday at 12 p.m. High Noon, thus the name. Every day I come at you with all the hot topics, current events, headlines, trends, whatever it is people are barking about on any of the cable news services or whatever it is that people are talking about online, on the socials, whatever it is. If it's something that people are buzzing about, I'm going to give it to you every day at noon. We list them. We go by one at a time. Boom. I tell you what the issue is. I tell you why it's trending, why it's making headlines. I give you my 5 cents on it. That's right. I give you 5 cents, not 2 cents. I give you 3 more than the next guy. And then we move on to the next topic. We don't spend too much time on any one individual thing. Although today that could be pretty easy. You could probably just do a special show on, hey, let's watch the war in Israel. But that's not what we're going to do. We're going to touch on that. Obviously, that's the overriding story out in the globe today. But we're going to talk about some of the other stuff too. We're going to go through all the bunch of dumb stuff happening. And that's kind of what we try to do on this show. We do not do politics. This is not a political talk radio show. This is a talk radio show. We're trying to do a form of talk radio that doesn't exist anymore. I don't care how you voted. You shouldn't care how I voted. As a matter of fact, I'm never going to tell you how I vote because I like I always say, there is a curtain for a reason. We pull a curtain. We do it all in private. I don't care how you vote. I don't care who you support. You shouldn't care who I support. That's what I'm trying to do here with this show. I'm trying to do a form of talk radio that isn't dependent on you agreeing with my political choices or me agreeing with yours. I want everybody here. There are so many things that we can just talk about, that we can have fun with, we can laugh over, that we can argue about. We can literally hate each other for a whole bunch of things other than how we voted. So that's what we try to do on this show. Now, to that end, this show runs on your tips and your gratuities. Every show is produced by somebody who tipped during the previous show. Nobody tipped this week, and that's fine. That's fine because we did the grind, man. You know how we grinded out that last week. The last week of the month, man, we're always grinding for tips, and we made it. We made it. Thank you so much, you guys. So we're starting fresh. So ready? So go ahead. Tip the show if you want. Let's get started. You can do that, and then we'll see who tomorrow's executive producer is. Let's look in the chat room. It's a little bit of a different show today. I know we don't have the normal people. We're out of schedule. Normally 12 o'clock. Today we did it at 3. I'm sorry. It's Indigenous Columbus Day. That's what I call it. I call it Indigenous Columbus Day because I'm not looking to start fights with anybody. I mean, I get it. I get the whole controversy. You know what? We're not going to get into that right now. We're not going to get into it right now. Maybe we will at some point, but I don't know. I don't really care about that. It's stupid. It's just a day off school. My kids got fall break. That's a thing now. Fall break was never a thing when I was a kid. We had spring break. Now they got a fall break. All right. A little bit of an issue with my microphone here. So let me see if I can mess with that. All right. What else do I want to mention? Oh, I wanted to see this. So the software that I use to do these shows every day on the Radio Misfits podcast platform, there's like a new option. It's like it says music. It's like now all of a sudden there's do I have music choices? Hold on. Let me see. I'm going to click on a little button that says chill. Let's see what happens. Okay, this could be bad. Like that ain't terrible. Can you guys hear that? Can you guys hear that in the chat room? I don't even know if you guys can hear that. Someone in the chat room, tell me if you can hear this music. Because it looks like now this platform is allowing us, which is nice. It's nice to be able to have some music. What's this? This is called down tempo. Okay. Thank you, Barney. Appreciate you. All right, well, that's fun. All right, looks like they've given us new options. So now we can play music. Maybe I'll explore that a little bit. All right, in the meantime, let's get started with today's show. It is the High Noon Report or Rant or Stream or whatever it is. I don't know. We haven't really. Part of the reason it's not a success is because we've never actually settled on the branding properly. I don't know what to tell you. I like the idea that it always evolves. What is it? I don't know. You can't put it in a bag. Or is it a box? You put it in a box. That's what you do. It's already been a crazy day. It's already been a nuts. Hi, Adam's here. Byron's here. Barney's here. I want to say hi to everybody in the chat room. Frank is here. All right, let's get started. We're going to roll through today's show. A lot of stuff to talk about. I got stuff I want to talk about. Plus all the things that are actually happening. So let's get y'all briefed up. Let's do it. The High Noon Report for the 9th day of October, year of our Lord 2023. I am Pugs Moran. Did you know that October 9th is the 282nd day of the year? That means, quick math, 83 days remain until the end of the year. So as we like to say around these parts, get those New Year's Eve plans started. All right. First, before we get into all the hot topics and the stuff that's happening today, the stuff that's actually determining how we view this episode of October the 9th, we like to take a jump back in time. We like to go and do a little segment I call Erstwhile on This Day. Erstwhile on This Day. This is, or previously on, previously on October the 9th. This is where we go and we look at some incidents or some things that have occurred throughout history that have shaped our perception of this day. Why? Well, it's always interesting to know what happened on this day as we look forward to the events that will occur in the next coming hours. Maybe a little bit of a rhythm we can determine. Maybe some kind of a hint, an edge. I don't know. Let's move on. Erstwhile on this day in 1919, the Cincinnati Reds win the World Series. Hooray for the Cincinnati Reds. They won the World Series on this day in 1919. Who cares? I care. Why? Because it was my Black Sox. That's right. We threw the World Series. My Chicago Black Sox on this day. We'll never live it down. It is part of our brand. I have some very, very well-considered and thoughtful takes on the whole Black Sox scandal. I will simply say this. Shoeless Joe got absolutely hosed. Shoeless Joe did nothing wrong. Yeah, Eddie C.K. A lot of these guys did buckwheat. A bunch of these guys deserve what they got. Not Shoeless Joe Jackson. Say they show Shoeless Joe on this day in 1919, the Black Sox scandal. Mars baseball forever. On this day in 1967, a day after his capture, Ernesto Che Guevara is executed for attempting to incite a revolution in Bolivia, launching 1,000,001 t-shirts. That's right. He's the t-shirt guy. Che Guevara. He's the t-shirt guy. He's the t-shirt guy that I think they sell on college campus bookstores. Because I always see it's always college kids wearing the Che Guevara shirt. There you have it. On this day, they put him down. On this day in 1969 in Chicago, is that how you pronounce it? Chicago. The National Guard is called in as demonstrations continue over the trial of the Chicago 8. Chicago 8? What? Chicago 8? Yeah, people don't realize the Chicago 7. That's the Chicago 7 is famous. Chicago 7 is what would make the history books, but the Chicago 8 is how it began. Now, who was the 8th? Bobby Seale, Black Panther Bobby Seale. Bobby Seale, he went solo and got a mistrial, so he was separated from the rest of them. You know, your Abby Hoffmans, your Tom Haydens, the rest of your Chicago 7s. There you go. It was on this day, 1969, the trial of the Chicago 8, right? Or no, I'm sorry. It was on this day that the Chicago 8 did the thing that got him in trouble. On this day, you're a real historian, aren't you? Yeah, I am. On this day in 1984, the popular children's television show Thomas the Tank Engine and Friends, based on the Railway series by the Reverend Wilbert Awdry, premieres on ITV. What is ITV? Is that Irish TV? I think that's Irish TV, right? And that's like over there. All right, so Thomas the Tank Engine, which I am familiar with because, you know, it's a piece. Because I had a kid, right? And so Thomas the Tank Engine is still a big player in kids. But when did this start? This started in 1984 on this day. So I was 15. So this was not a player at all in my childhood. This would have been like the wave after me. I was more Sesame Street, Captain Kangaroo, Mr. Rogers, that Zoom, that kind of thing. Thomas the Tank Engine. Millennials, though. I bet you millennials, you love that shit. Ooh, Thomas the Tank Engine, probably your jam. It was Ringo Starr, right? Or was it George Carlin? I don't know. Which one was it? Was it both? Because that's kind of interesting. So if you're going to do a children's show, like let's say it started with Ringo Starr. Like if you're like, yeah, we're doing a TV show for kids, and guess what? It stars a Beatle. That's huge. That's like a huge get. So and that's kind of quirky. It's like, oh, isn't that funny that Ringo's doing this? Because Ringo ain't got to do this. Ringo's obviously just doing it because it's fun, and he's a massive star. And so that's a really great way for this show to get attention and to be a show that people pay attention to, as opposed to, just some other show that doesn't have Ringo Starr playing a tiny little conductor. Now, remember, I don't remember who was first. I think it was Ringo Starr. So then you lose Ringo Starr. Like, he leaves. He's like, yeah, that was fun. I ain't doing it anymore. You got to get somebody big. And I think they got George Carlin. Is that the story? Is it like George Carlin would be like, oh, really, Ringo? You're going. Ringo's like, you never replace me. And then they go and they get like a George Carlin. Or it also works the other way. Like, if it was George Carlin first and George Carlin's like, I'm done doing this. You'll never get anybody as interesting as me. And then they get a Beatle. I don't know, whatever. It was on this day it debuted. No idea which one was first. Not even sure that those people are involved. Like I said, I didn't know the show. I'm just stream of consciousness ranting on what I think I know about Thomas the Tank Engine. Moving on. On this day in 1986, The Phantom of the Opera, eventually the second longest running musical in London, opens on this day at Her Majesty's Theatre. Phantom of the Opera, that opened in 1986. That's interesting to me. So Phantom of the Opera is like a new thing. It's like a modern thing. I think just randomly, if you had asked me yesterday, when was Phantom of the Opera written? I'd have been like 1795. It just feels like something that came from back then. But it didn't. 1986. That's interesting to me. All right. On this day in 1986, also on this day in 1986. Oh, this was a big day. This was a Sunday night. And I remember this. I was all in. I had sniffed the future with cable TV. But still, you're back in 1986. Okay, so I don't know how it was for you, but in 1986, we had cable. We were lucky. We were one of the early people to have cable. I was one of the kids. It's like, you got cable? And I'm like, yeah, my mom got cable. We had cable pretty early. It was pretty great. But not everybody. There was like a 10-year period between like 86 and 96 where not everybody had cable. And that was a big thing when going over to someone's house. Like, if you were going to go over to their house and they didn't have cable, that was like, dude, I don't want to go over there. They don't even have cable. It was a big deal. It really was, because that meant you had to go over and there was just like 3 things to watch. Remember, we didn't have cell phones or internet or, nothing. So it was whatever the TV box spit out. That was what we were entertained by. And people who had cable were important because the choices, especially if you were a kid going to hang out somewhere. But it was on this day in 1986 that the people who didn't have cable got a little something extra, because it was on this day in 1986 that Fox Broadcasting launches as the 4th U.S. television network. That's right, Fox. I think it was Tracy Ullman. I think that was the first thing that was on Fox. Do you remember real early Fox? It was Tracy Ullman. I think it was Tracy Ullman on Sunday nights. And then, they had bad shows. Like I think I want to say that like for the first year, Fox only did like Monday, Tuesday, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday or something. Like, it was weird. It was like half a network for a while before it really got running. And then it tripped over its dick and fell into The Simpsons. And then that became boom. And then that was it. Forget about it. But it was on this day in 1986. I remember when Fox came in. I was like, oh, very excited. And don't even with the Fox football. That wasn't for another decade. They didn't have football or anything awesome for like years. They did a whole bunch of Herman's Head duets, bunch of stupid stuff. Herman's Head duets, 21 Jump Street. No, that was a big one. 21 Jump Street was a big one for him. That was an early big one. That was a big one. 21. I like 21 Jump Street. That was good. That was Monday nights. 21 Jump Street was on Monday nights. So what do we have? We had Tracy Ullman, because it wasn't even The Simpsons right away. The Simpsons were a spinoff of Tracy Ullman. Tracy Ullman ran for a while. So it was Tracy Ullman. Yeah, I don't know. Whatever. Fox TV. Now look at them. Now they're as big as anybody. They're as big as on this day in 1986. On this day in 2007, the Dow Jones Industrial Average reached its all-time high. Oh my God. In 2007, man, chugging along. Let's go Wall Street. Let's go Wall Street. On this day in 2007, the Dow Jones hit. Are you ready for this number? You ready to have your mind blown by this number? Woo, the good times. On this day in 2007, the Dow Jones hit 14,000. 14,000. on this day in 2007. And then it just absolutely collapsed because of the mortgage industry, because of the whole 2008, the thing. But 14, it was at 14 in 2007. And everybody was like, private jets and champagne for everyone. We were trucking along, man. It was 14. Then the entire United States middle class took one on the chin. Clonk. That's right. 14. Everybody's getting rich. Then we lose our houses. We lose our 401ks. We lose everything. But it was on this day. It was on this day, 14. Do you know what it's at today? It's at 33 today. So, woo! They bounced back. Wall Street bounced back. Wall Street has twice as much volume as they did in 2007. As they did before they destroyed. And remember, in 2007, they destroyed your grandma's pension. They took your mother-in-law's home. They took my home. How about a little personal responsibility? Okay, sure. Some personal responsibility on my part as well. What I'm saying is, I still haven't recovered. I was wiped out. And I have friends who still haven't recovered, who were wiped out, working class people who had to start over. Not Wall Street, though. Not the 1%. They doubled. They were at 14. That was their peak. They're like, 14, it doesn't get any better than this. And then the bottom fell out. And they're like, they're at 33 as of right now. They have doubled. They've more than doubled. They've more than doubled their value. So, somebody did okay after the big collapse of 2008. And it was Wall Street. It wasn't us. No, it wasn't us. I'm living in a guest house. Not us. No. All right, that's going to do it for our erstwhile on segment. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. That was an emotional erstwhile on this day. Now we like to move on to our second segment of the day. This one we call birthdays. That's right. They say it's their birthdays. Go through some people who were born on this day. Talk about their contributions. Yeah, I give you my hot take on what I think of them. Again, we don't name everybody born on this day. Why? That would be crazy. But we do name the ones, the celebrities, the notables, the people who popped out. So let's get to it. Born on this day in 1940, John Lennon. Imagine all the people. I mean, I don't know. I'm in a bit of a pickle here with it being John Lennon's birthday, because I can do a full hour on John Lennon. But instead, we're just going to move on. Happy birthday, John Lennon, born on this day in 1940. Born on this day in 1944, also celebrating a birthday today, John Entwistle. John Entwistle, ladies and gentlemen. He's the guy you don't know from The Who. He's the guy you don't know from The Who. You know Roger Daltrey. You know Pete Townsend. You know Keith Moon. The one you don't know is having a birthday today, and his name is John Entwistle. Born on this day in 1948, celebrating a birthday, Jackson Browne. Woo! I love Jackson Browne. The older I get, the more I appreciate 22-year-old Jackson Browne. You have any idea his first couple, not necessarily the ones that we all know of with all the hits, but you have any idea what an amazing lyricist this guy was? What an amazing writer. What an amazing, oh God, Jackson Browne. Now, here's the thing that's always been sort of interesting about Jackson Browne. Jackson Browne has embodied, symbolized, personified the California, super sensitive, sweet. Oh, he's so handsome. He's cute and he's handsome and he's non-threatening and he's just so sensitive. I mean, have you ever listened to his lyrics? I mean, my God, this man is... Okay, so he's got that. But then like in the 80s, he was accused of knocking around Daryl Hannah. He was in a long-term relationship with Daryl Hannah. And I think this was like... I think he was with Daryl Hannah for like a bunch of years, like during the Splash years, like when she was like, a thing. Now she's a curiosity. But back then she was a thing. She was Daryl Hannah. And she was with Jackson Browne. But then she met JFK Jr., right? And then JFK Jr. kind of took her away from Jackson Browne. And then I think the breakup between, maybe Jackson Browne was after JFK. I don't know, whatever. I think it was Jackson Browne first. But there was some incident where Jackson Browne was accused of, like, you know, domestic abuse. I don't know the detail. It was a very long time ago. I know that Jackson Browne didn't go to jail or anything like that, and he seems to be okay, and there was never any big scandal. But then again, it was in the 80s where, you know, people went, eh. But here's what I'll say. You guys who listen to this show, you know that I'm very interested in Daryl Hannah. I called her a curiosity because maybe just to me, maybe to me, she's just an ongoing, lifelong curiosity. But Daryl Hannah is a special person, and that's all I'm going to say. She is a special person, and she's also, in addition to being a special person, just think about what we would normally consider, oh, yes, his kid, his child is special. Just remember what we mean by that, because she's a special person, but she's also, like, gorgeous and, like, really hot. But then also, she comes from a super wealthy and well-connected and society, big society family. So those three things. So she's gorgeous, connected, and, you know, well, let's just put it this way. Ron Howard cast her to play Madison, the mermaid, because Ron Howard was looking for somebody who was completely bewildered by the world. Because remember, Madison the mermaid is a mermaid who is supposed to be awestruck by the human world. She's crawled out of the sea and she's experiencing the world. And Ron Howard was looking for an actress who could just seem that stupid all the time. And Daryl Hannah walked in and she just talked to Ron Howard, and Ron Howard went, "That was the greatest imitation or performance of a completely lost and dizzy individual I've ever met." So he cast her for that. So my point is this: on Jackson Browne's birthday, when I remember the stories of you know, Jackson Browne supposedly being a little bit difficult or whatever they were concerning Daryl Hannah and his breakup, I just think Daryl Hannah must have been very difficult. She must have been hard to, because she doesn't, like, I don't know that she, moving on. Happy birthday, Jackson Browne. Somebody's baby. I think he wrote that about her, right? She must be somebody's baby. I think he wrote that about Daryl Hannah. Born on this day in 1948, Jackson Browne. Look, again, you know, I probably should have spent more time on John Lennon and less time on Daryl Hannah, but I am really interested in Daryl Hannah. She's just been allowed to do her thing because she's connected with her family and there's a lot of money there and she can pay her bills. And I think she lives in a tree. Doesn't she live in a tree somewhere? Like, isn't that her thing now? Like, she lives like in a toadstool village that she built in Neil Young's backyard. She's with Neil Young, I think. Are they still together? Okay, now I need to know. No! Stop it with your obsession with Daryl Hannah. You don't need to know. I think she's with Neil Young, and I think she lives in a treehouse in his backyard. And, you know, we just don't ask too many questions, because those of us who know about Daryl Hannah, we go, yeah, that's totally normal for her to live in a toadstool village in a treehouse in her backyard. Good for her. She's still hot, though. She's still 6 foot tall, blonde, and like a size 0. She's still hot. What's that, baby? You're going to be out in the tree? Okay. Born on this day in 1948, Jackson Browne. Born on this day in 1951, Robert Wool. Robert Wool was Arliss. Remember Arliss? He was a comedian, but he was also Arliss on the HBO show Arliss. Arliss was good. He did a special on HBO. If you got HBO Max, I think you can find it. Certainly, if you've got YouTube, you can find it. But look for it's Robert Wool's Back to School. If you just like Google search Robert Wool's Back to School, and what it was an HBO special where Robert Wool went and took over a history class at some university somewhere. And it was like a real class of college students. And it was Robert Wool teaching an entire class on American history. It was fascinating. It was like one of the best things I'd ever seen on HBO. And I can't believe they didn't do it as a full series. But if you have an opportunity to see that, it's the greatest thing that Robert Wool has ever done. And I'm a big fan of Arliss. Robert Wool, happy birthday. Born on this day in 1951. Born on this day in 1952. How about Sharon Osbourne? Sharon Osbourne. She married Ozzy, and now she's a thing. Born on this day in 1953. Tony Shalhoub. He's Monk. We all like Monk. What else was Tony Shalhoub? Wings, right? Wasn't he on Wings? Tony Shalhoub. Born on this day in 1953. Born on this day in 1954, the old quantum jumper himself, Scott Bakula. Somebody asked me if I had seen the new Quantum Leap, and I'm like, I've never seen the old Quantum Leap. I never watched the old Quantum Leap. And I should have. I don't know why Quantum Leap from the late 80s, early 90s with Scott Bakula wasn't a show that I watched. I don't know. All right, happy birthday. Happy birthday, Scott Bakula. Born on this day in 1954, the exact same time, umbilical cousins with Scott Bakula. How about John O'Hurley? A metropolitan idea. Jay Peterman. Jay Peterman, right? Elaine. Metropolitan idea, Elaine, let's go. Jay Peterman from Seinfeld. Happy birthday, John O'Hurley. Born on this day in 1958, Al Jorgensen. Al Jorgensen, Cuban-American singer, songwriter, and producer. Cuban-American? What? Al Jorgensen is Cuban? Okay, well, sure, why not? Why not? He can be anything he wants to be. Al Jorgensen. Okay, quick stop down. Quick story about Al Jorgensen. Al Jorgensen is, of course, Ministry and a whole bunch of other things. He's a studio genius. He's a production genius. He's a really clever and wildly mercurial individual. When I was in college, he taught a class at Columbia where I went. It was a sound appreciation class, and I signed up for it because I thought, man, how cool would that be? To have all junkied out Al Jorgensen, because this is like the 90s when Ministry was, he was peaking back then. And so like in 15 classes, he showed up twice. So there was that. And then Al Jorgensen, there's a picture on my Facebook page. We had Al Jorgensen join us at the Grammys one year when Kelly and I went out and did our shows live from the Grammys, and Al Jorgensen came in, he sat down, and I told him that story. And he goes, do you know how many people tell me they took my class at Columbia and I don't ever remember being there? I go, you weren't, dude. You never showed up. They just sold the class and stuck your name on it, and you showed up once. He's a good dude, though. I liked him. All right, Al Jorgensen, happy birthday, Ministry. Born on this day in 1958. Born on this day also in 1958, another Chicago legend. Look at this, a couple of Chicago legends. The greatest living Chicago Bear linebacker, Mike Singletary, Samurai Mike, big and bold, part of the defense, stops them cold. Got that? I think it's Mike. I think it's Samurai Mike, big and bold, captain of the defense. Stop him. Wait, I don't know what it is. Anyway, that was his Super Bowl shuffle line. Mike Singletary. He is the greatest living Chicago Bear linebacker at this point. There's a lot of great living Chicago Bear linebackers, but you got to give the edge to old Samurai Mike, just based on the 85 team. You got to. I mean, look, sorry, Urlacher. I know that you're there. I know you're sitting there. You're like, what? And I know Briggs is like, huh? And I know if there's a number. I know Plank and Buffon's dead. I know you guys, but greatest living Chicago Bear linebacker. We lost Butkus. I tried this weekend to give my son like a real hardcore dose of Butkus. He wasn't into it. Yeah, there was no reason to have the fight. He was like, Dad, I know he's great. You've been telling me about him since I was born. I go, but he's dead now. We got to watch these memorials. I've seen him. It was that whole thing. You can't make your kids do what you want them. And I'm not the first parent to realize that. I understand. All right, now, we started everything out here. Remember, I didn't spend a whole lot of time on this. We said born on this day as we go through the birthdays on this very day. I said born on this day, John Lennon, 1940. Born on this day, 1975, Sean Ono Lennon, his son. Oh, there's a birthday present for you. Happy birthday, John. Here's your son. That's probably the greatest present he ever got. Sean Lennon, American singer, songwriter, guitarist, producer. Let's be honest, he's just a kid with John Lennon's money. That's wait, singer, songwriter. I mean, I guess. Is he though? Really? Isn't Sean Lennon really just the son of John Lennon and Yoko Ono? Isn't that probably what you should lead with? Not American singer, songwriter. I can't name a Sean Lennon song. I can name a Julian Lennon song. I can't name a Sean Lennon song. Julian Lennon. Ever since you've been leaving me, Na, 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 na. And it's much. Remember that? Remember much too late for goodbyes. Yeah, there you go. Look at me remembering a Julian Lennon hit song from 40-something years ago. Born on this day in 1975. American singer-songwriter. Wink, wink. Sean Lennon. No. Born on this day in 1993. Hey, wait a second. I just realized something. The anniversary of John Lennon's death is coming up, isn't it? Oh, yeah. Okay. It's not for a while. It's December. Yeah. I remember there was like a Monday Night Football game was in progress. So that's why I was like, did he die close to his birthday? Okay. Because, Sean Lennon being born on the same day as his father, John, is a wonderful birthday present to John. But, his father being killed, terrible birthday present for Sean. So, born on this day in 1993. Here's a feller. Here's a feller who had himself a game yesterday. He sure did. George Kittle, born on this day in 1993. How my Cowboy fans doing today? Yeah, that was not good. I did not expect that last night. I really didn't. I did not expect that last night. All right, so truth be told, I am a Cowboy fan in law. I guess that would be like the best way to say it. Look, I've lived here since 2001, off and on. So, and I did pregame for the Cowboys. I worked at the Cowboys' home flagship station. We've done draft parties. So I've been around. I have friends who are in the Cowboys organization. I have friends with people who played for the Cowboys. So, but I've never been a Cowboy fan in the way you guys are, the way my other friends are, and the way my 14-year-old son is now. So that's what I mean when I'm a Cowboy fan in law. Like now for the first time, like I didn't care all the years that I was here when my best buddies would be heartbroken because the Cowboys lost. Yeah, I'd make fun of them. You guys suck. That was the thing. But I don't do that to my 14-year-old son. My 14-year-old son is really... So over the course of the last few years, I found myself rooting for the Cowboys simply because I don't want him. He's 14, but even when he was 12, he was a little meathead. I didn't want him being all devastated. So I started rooting for the Cowboys. And man, I bought in this year. I bought in. My kid bought me in. My kid's like, Dad, seriously, go with me on this. I'm like, okay, we're going. Let's go. Cowboys bandwagon. And then last night, it was just like, oh, shit. Happening to me again. Now, when I say happening to me again, what I mean by that is, famously, my rebuilt White Sox completely imploded this season. My Chicago Bears, who were supposed to take a huge leap forward, has thus far just not really looked all that great. Although I will agree that the last couple games, we've seen some movement in the right direction. But still, Chicago White Sox, Chicago Bears. Jump on the Rangers. Loving the Rangers. Not going to say anything about the Rangers. The Rangers are providing me with a much-needed relief, but I can't help but feel that at some point, they're going to shit on me too. So last night, I decided, you know what? Why not the freaking Cowboys? Seriously. Why not the Cowboys? This is absurd how long they've been sucking and how long that they've been falling apart. First of all, they've looked good for 5 years. Can we be honest? For 5 years, the Cowboys have looked like, well, this could be something. They have been that for 5 years. And I really thought that this year, but man, we know the 49ers are a legit team. And we know that the 49ers were really close to possibly winning the Super Bowl last year. I mean, if the 49ers, they couldn't get past Philadelphia. That was a jacked up show. There was that game. There was a lot of moving parts in that game. There were injuries. There were all kinds of things. Healthy 49ers, I believe they beat the Eagles. And I also believe that they might beat the Kansas City Chiefs last year in the Super Bowl, but whatever, that's just speculation. What we do know is that the 49ers do appear to be a machine with this freak show of a Mr. Irrelevant quarterback that they picked up at the scrap heap of the NFL draft and have seemingly turned into a future Hall of Famer who's going to lead this team to multiple Super Bowl. He looks great, is what I'm saying about Purdy. I wasn't a believer last night. I went into that game going, when are the wheels going to come off this Purdy experiment? And you're probably feeling the same way. I thought that Dak was a far superior quarterback. Guess what? That ain't the case. That San Francisco team is good. They are a good team from top to bottom. And the Dallas Cowboys, whom I also thought was a good team from top to bottom, went up in there to Santa Clara last night and got dismantled. God, I'm angry. Why did I have to buy in the last couple of weeks? It was after the Cardinals game. I was like, no, okay, I get why they lost this game to the Cardinals, because they're just too good. I believed that. That's what I told myself. It was a trap game. That's all. They're looking forward. They know what they are. The Cowboys know that they are built for a deep playoff run, and they are built for January, February football. That's where this team is going. They just looked past the Cardinals. That's all. The Cardinals are the worst team in the league. Guess what? The Cardinals might not be the worst team in the league. The Cardinals might not be that bad. They might not. Josh Dobbs does not look like the thrower. Josh Dobbs is looking great. Purdy is looking great. I'm starting to think that maybe so-called quarterback experts don't know what the hell they're talking about. So anyway, very upset about the Cowboy game. And I'm glad that George Kittle had himself a nice game last night. Happy birthday, George Kittle. Man, did you see that gaudy ass Purdy to McCaffrey to Debo, back to Purdy, chucks it to Kittle for a touchdown. I'm telling you, man, that was I've seen my dumbass Chicago Bears try to do stuff like that, and it always ends up with, like, too many men on the field or illegal motion or some kind of bullshit. It's just beautiful to watch a really good football team execute complicated and fun football. And that's what that Kyle Shanahan coach team is. Cowboys got a long way to go, man. And that is really upsetting to me on this day. Although there's a part of me that's like, but you saw this coming. You knew that the minute you committed to the Cowboys, it was going to be you and your son's thing. It was going to be our year. I mean, I know it's not over with, but man, that was really sobering. That was really sobering to see them so dismantled by a team that could do absolutely anything that it wanted to do. Man, what are you going to do? Triple flea flicker is what Adam is saying. Yeah, I guess it would be. I mean, Purdy McCaffrey is crazy. How can you have that much time when you've got the Cowboys defense is a good defense? But what were they doing? What was going on with that? Man, when they said last night during the game, and I won't get into it because I hate the nuts and the bolts of the football stuff too. But when they were showing the teams that use shifts on offensive plays, and they showed how the 49ers lead the league 85% of the time. And then I watched every single offensive play from that point forward going, holy shit, they're doing it again. They're doing it again. Dan Campbell's head must have been spinning. I mean, but it's not like he didn't see this on tape. It's not like Kyle Shanahan just started last night doing that Kyle Shanahan 85% shift. 85%. Somebody's moving. You got to rotate. You got to have your defense guess. That's crazy. That's crazy. That team looks really good, man. And, I used to think that Buffalo looked really good, but why? I honestly, telling you. All right. Anyway, I don't want to do football. All right, let's move into some deaths. This is what we're doing. Let's run through these. A couple of people who died. These are the people who've died. We take a look at the people who died on this day, and we determine whether they are in heaven or hell. This is based upon our own collective understanding of what it takes to get into heaven or hell. And so let's do this. Not a whole lot of people to talk about today. Dead on this day in 1911. How about Jack Daniel? Jack Daniel of Jack Daniels. He's in heaven, right? Although there's probably some terrible story about him, right? Like, Jack Daniels stole that company from another guy named Billy Marshall, or, something like that. He beat his wife, and then he had slaves. There's all kinds of terrible Jack Daniels story. But we're putting him in heaven because it's a great American name. It's a great American name. I ain't going to look too deeply. Look, somebody wants to audit my choice to put him in heaven. That's fine. I'll never look back. This is just performative here. All right. On this day, dead in 2014. This one I didn't know. This one kind of bummed me out. Here. Weren't any of you guys aware that Jan Hooks from Saturday Night Live was dead? Jan Hooks? You guys remember her? Here, let me pull up a picture of her. I'll show her to you. Jan Hooks from Saturday Night Live. I didn't know she was dead. She was like, she's kind of a spare Saturday Night Liver. Like she's not like one of the greats, but she's not one of the worst ones. Like if you tell me, oh, Jan Hooks from Saturday Night Live, I'd be like, yeah. Yeah, she was all right. She didn't really, I can't really think of anything that she did that stands out. But also, to her credit, there's nothing that she did that makes me go, oh, I hated that. Like Chris Kattan. I will never, ever have any appreciation for Chris Kattan on Saturday Night Live because of that Mango character. That stupid little Mango. It was, first of all, wasn't Mango the same as Mr. Peeper? What? I don't even know what's going on there. There's just way too many. Anyway, there you go. Jan Hooks. She's dead. We're going to put her in heaven, right? Because she seems okay. Big smile. Happy. She's got a big mouth. Big happy mouth lady. There she goes. Jan Hooks. Okay, we're putting her in heaven. There we go. Good for her. All right, let's move into all the subjects, all the topics, all the hot things that people are buzzing about today. I will remind you at this point that this show runs on your gratuities. If you appreciate talk radio that isn't dependent on how you voted, we don't do politically divisive nonsense here. We do all the other stuff, all the other divisive nonsense, just not the politically divisive stuff. So if you're with me, let's move on. Let's talk about the world today. First, I'm going to need a drink because obviously Israel is the first thing we're going to mention. Guess what's trending around the world? Israel. Okay, so there were numerous points this weekend where I almost did special coverage. There were a couple middle of the nights. Last night, for instance, at about 11 o'clock, I'm like, man, I should just... Because since Friday, since this whole thing began with it. All right, so if you don't know, maybe you don't. It's been a big weekend of football. I don't know how. So if you don't know, Hamas, which is the military arm of the Palestinian Authority, Hamas. They are, I called them the military arm because that's what it says on their business cards. But the rest of us that don't live in China, Russia, Iran, Brazil, Syria, or Turkey, the rest of us call Hamas a terror organization because, that's kind of what they used to call themselves. On Friday, Hamas launched the largest scale attack against the Israeli state since the 1972 Arab Wars. And that was 1972 is when Syria to the north and Egypt to the south both invaded Israel from, both areas. Big war, 70s war. But they tamped that down, and you had Sadat and Begin shaking head. You had all kinds of peace talks and all that stuff. It went on for 20 years. So the situation has been garbage ever since then. And there have been flare-ups, and there have been little attacks, and there have been guys that stumble into an Israeli cafe with a suicide vest on, and they blow everybody up. And that's the kind of thing that's been happening. But not since the Arab-Israeli War of the early 1970s has there been an actual full-scale invasion, air, land, and sea. This was not a couple of terrorists out there doing Allah Akbar. This was planned. This was funded. This was an invasion. This was a full-on, there was a plan here. And we're a couple of days into it now, and it's starting to look like we understand what the plan is. The plan was to do a first strike invasion on certain kibbutzes. Kibbutzes are these villages, these towns that are being created by Israeli settlers. Raid these kibbutzes, large-scale slaughter, horror, and devastation. Shock and awe, essentially. You're going to try. We're not looking to negotiate here. Shock and awe. Kidnappings, mass kidnappings. They rolled in trucks. They kidnapped hundreds and hundreds of people, put them, Israeli citizens, and then put them in the back of trucks and drug them back into Gaza. And I don't know what your understanding is of the way Gaza is, but Gaza is literally a beach strip that is carved out from Egypt to the south, all the way. I don't know. I don't know how many miles it is. But it is a strip. It is a city, Gaza City, and it's where all of the Palestinians and all of them live. But it is in Israel. It is completely surrounded by the Israeli settlements. And it's, walled off and all of that, and they're kept in there, and the Israelis stay on their side. But so there's been a big attack issued against the kibbutzes, especially the ones that are in that area, from Hamas operating inside Gaza. So they do that. They launch thousands of missiles, man. I don't know if you've seen the video. Like I said, we can spend hours just watching video. We are going to look at a couple of videos here, but only because I have a reason that I want to talk about these things. Okay, so the plan is hostages. They've got hundreds of hostages that are inside Gaza City right now. We're talking about old people. What did you see? I mean, they slaughtered people at bus stops. They were riding around. It was insane that Hamas is putting out virally hype videos. Like how your favorite college team might put out a hype video on YouTube just before the big game? Hamas is publishing hype videos showing how they invaded. Actual footage of the invasion. They were on paragliders. They were on those little bicycle flying things. They were on those. They were on boats. They came across in trucks. Toyota, by the way. Jeez. Toyota and Nissan. A lot of Toyota and Nissan trucks being used to carry Hamas terrorists into Israeli kibbutzes. And that just, by the way, there is a conversation to be had about Israel and Palestine and blah, 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 and these people and those people and blah, blah, blah. And yeah, that's a really complicated thing. But let's just talk about why we're talking about this. We're talking about this because Hamas, a recognized terror organization, waged an attack upon the Israeli people. That's why we're talking. We're not talking about the decades-old incident. We're not talking about the pre-1967 borders. We're not even going back to, whether or not Jerusalem belongs to Christians, Jews, or Arabs. We are just simply talking about the events of the past 72 hours. And terrorists from inside Gaza City have waged an unprecedented attack against the people, the citizens of Israel. That's all I'm reacting to. So now Israel's turn, right? So what is Israel going to do? Well, they're going to open up a can of Israeli whoop ass. And that's what they've been doing now for about 12 hours. So I said I wanted to start going live yesterday and doing a stream because we're waiting for the Israeli response. And we assume the Israeli response is going to be to flatten Gaza City. Here's where it gets really gross. Gaza City is where all the hostages are. But I believe, and it's always been the reputation of the Israeli military and the Israeli attitude, that's too bad. It's too bad that you took our hostages. You took our hostages, everyone dies. So I don't think the fact that, I mean, this is a miscalculation. It's got to be on the part of Hamas to think that they could save their own people by kidnapping hundreds of Israeli citizens and then dragging them back and using them as human shields. That's not any kind of way that anyone's ever viewed the Israeli. The Israelis are going to go in heavy and they're going to go in hard. And Netanyahu has already said it's going to be an unprecedented response. And they gave everybody 24 hours. They said, get out, get out, get out, get out. We're coming. Nukes. People are talking about nukes. There aren't going to be nukes. This isn't like this. The initial response from Netanyahu's government to the Gaza situation isn't going to be to nuke someplace that is right next to you, that is on the water, breezes. You're not going to nuke something that's going to get blown right into you. It's not going to happen. Okay. So they're not going to nuke there. They might nuke Iran. If we start to see some Hezbollah action coming out of Palestine, you have to look at Gaza and so you got Hamas. They're down there in Palestine. They're in Gaza. That's where Hamas is. So they're more to the south. But up to the north in Lebanon, which is also on the border, Lebanon is on the northern border with Israel. Lebanon has a group called Hezbollah. So you got Hamas in the south and you got Hezbollah up there. Hezbollah is entirely and has historically existed as a rabble-rousing arm of the Iranian military. That's what Hezbollah has always been, sort of Iranian. The way Iran has started shit fires all across the Middle East for about 30 years now. They've created this group, this paramilitary group, Hezbollah. They fund it. So that's where you start to get worried about this becoming a wider thing. Also, they're going out of their way to say that this is a war against Hamas. So that's another big thing that Israel has done. Israel has declared war in their Knesset, their parliament there, or their Congress, whatever we want to call it. They declared war, a state of war. Israel is at a state of war, and they specifically stated a state of war against Hamas. Now, why is that important? That's really important, because the whole thing that has had everybody concerned about this very situation, the situation we are in right now, the thing that has had us concerned for generations, is that any war between Israel and an Arab nation is going to be a war against Israel, or between Israel and the Arab world. So Israel themselves is saying, no, this is Israel declaring war on Hamas. But is the rest of the Arab world hearing Israel just declared war on the Arab world, which is what we've all been worried about, because now it's a thing. Now it's yes, there are American hostages. There are a bunch of American hostages, as many as 100 I've heard. They don't have a number on the hostages. Hundreds have been taken across the border into Gaza, but they don't have a number as to do the hundreds equal, 1,000, 2,000? How many are over there? We don't know, but there are Americans. That shouldn't change. That should not in any way, shape, or form change our metric in this whole thing. But there's Americans. We've got to go and free the Americans. Those Americans knew what they were doing. So a number of the Americans, I saw a story, or at least, again, and this is another problem. Twitter is trending today because people are upset with Twitter. And I don't even know. I saw this thing on Twitter. I don't know if it's real or not. That's the problem. And we'll get into this. But so there's this thing on Twitter where it was an American friend of somebody who was missing. They went to Israel. And we're probably all familiar now with the music festival, the dance party, or I don't know. I've heard it described every way from like a music festival to a dance party to like a miniature Burning Man type thing. But whatever, there was this event that was going on, and it was going on right on the border with Gaza. And it was Zatir. I forgive me. I'm learning all of these names of these settlements and these kibbutzes. Zatir or something like that. So they had a dance party, and they had this dance party right up against the walls of Gaza. And they were just going out there, and they were just going to dance, and it's just going to be about love. And it's just going to be about, you know what? We're tired of this world and all the hatred. Let's just go to their doorstep and have a dance party. Well, guess what happened? I mean, isn't this a lot like Siegfried and Roy getting eaten by the lion? I mean, isn't this, you're having a dance party right outside the walls of you're going up to the walls of Gaza City. The people who are occupying, the young people who are occupying the kibbutzes, the Israeli settlements, right around the perimeter of Gaza City. You people are going to throw a dance party. Are you taunting them? I mean, it just seems like, no, and of course they're not taunting them, but that's the ignorance of youth, right? We're just going to dance the horrors of the world away. You can't dance the horrors of the world away. And all these videos that are coming out from this dance party, music festival, that was one of the first places targeted by Hamas. Hamas, I'm going to show you the video. I don't know if you've seen this video. Hamas and these crazy paragliders. They're like teams of them, like squads of them. I don't even know what to call them. They just pedaled their way in the desert, took off, flew over this music festival. Who even knows if it was a target? They might have just been like, hey, why not? And these terrorists landed at the music festival and slaughtered a whole bunch of people. They just outright murdered a whole bunch of people. And then a whole bunch of people ran. And then everybody else that couldn't get to cars or couldn't get out of there, they were kidnapped. And they were dragged back behind the walls of Gaza City. And I want to show you some of these videos. Just give you an idea of what this is, of all of the terrible videos. See, kids in cages. You want to talk about kids in cages? Have you seen those videos? Little kidnapped kids being paraded around in the streets in cages. Little kidnapped Israeli kids. Yeah. No, there's all kinds of horrible shit going on over there if you want to see it. But this was the most interesting. Here, let me show you that. First, let me show you this. This is the actual music festival. This is from inside the music festival. Moments before they were attacked and murdered and raped and dismembered and taken kidnapped. And so this is what was happening. And again, man, I go back to the Siegfried and Roy. You threw a dance party right next to, you went there specifically because it was a peace and love. This is about peace and love. It's a beautiful sentiment, man, but the world is a lot darker than that. Ugh. So here they are. Boop. Now let's get rid of Jan Hooks. We don't need no Jan Hooks. Here they are. I want to play this video for you. So this was the music festival. So these people, by the way, these people you're seeing there are either dead or kidnapped, or maybe some of them got away. But one of them here is the girl who's sort of become the big name for it. What's her? Shana. I'll get you her name. But she was dragged through this. There's video of her being dragged through the streets and people spitting on her and all that. She's dead. I mean, they broke her body in a million pieces. She's one of these girls dancing here. I mean, just Friday or whatever it is, young people, they're going to dance to these colors away. I think that's her. I think that's the girl. That's the dead girl. This is the girl who's become sort of an international celebrity because they supposedly murdered her, raped her, broke her bones, and then threw her in the back of a pickup truck and paraded her through the streets on Saturday. And I don't know if you were lucky enough to see that video. I did, but yeah, it's definitely her. So that was like minutes before this all went down here. There's another video here that's very, very. So this is more from the festival as Hamas attacked. Hold on. So this is, you're seeing the people dancing and, oh, nope, too big. But now off in the sky behind them, you can actually see the paragliders, the terrorists behind them. Ugh. All right, here you go. This is more from the festival. Here we go. And I don't know if you can see these things out here. I mean, that's just horrifying. That's just, you're in the middle of nowhere. Well, you're not in the middle of nowhere. Again, I'll point out the Siegfried and the Tiger thing, right? The Siegfried and Roy. You're not in the middle of nowhere. You are specifically having this peace and love music dance festival right next to Gaza City. You're doing it right there. These people, they don't let you dance or dress like this. Or, I mean, I mean, how oblivious do you have to be to the way the world actually is to think that we're just going to go there and we're going to play our music and we're going to dance? I'm not blaming them. This is not me blaming them. This is, but what honestly? People went and saw Siegfried and Roy. They saw a tiger eat Roy, and then we're like, hey, we want our money back. What? That's what's supposed to happen. If you throw a dance party right next to the gates of Gaza City, it's a dangerous place, is what I'm saying. I don't know. And don't get me wrong. This is not, ain't nobody, this is not blame. This is just, man. Own goal, maybe? It's such a tragedy. It's such a horrifying thing to have to watch. Did you see? There is video of this girl. She looks like she's Asian. She looks like maybe she's 20 years old. And this video is her on the back of a motorcycle. She's obviously being kidnapped and rushed out of there. And the look on her face is just absolute horror. And I'm like, well, she's dead. God. It's... here's another little piece of video. This comes to us from CNN. They are being crazy performative. They are, let's watch this. This is from CNN earlier today. Clarissa Ward, who is Clarissa Ward is a legit wartime correspondent. I've been watching her for about 20 years now, but this seemed like a little bit much here. This is CNN from earlier today.
Clarissa is on the ground right now. Clarissa, tell us what's happening.
Stand by.
Hi, John. So forgive me, I have a slightly unelegant position, but we have just had a massive barrage of rockets coming in here, not too far from us. So we have had to take shelter here by the roadside. We're just about 5 minutes away. Gaza is in that direction. We can hear now a lot of jets in the sky. We could also hear the Iron Dome intercepting a number of those rockets as they were
guy behind her
overhead and making impact in that direction, not too far from here. We came to this location because this was ground zero for this entire operation of carnage. Hamas militants came on a pickup truck. This was the first place where they breached that border wall, and they basically drove down this strip, just spraying lead wherever they went. We saw, in fact, I was just grabbing it before that happened and we had to hit the deck, but heavy weaponry being used. It's saying we can get up now. Where are we moving to? Sorry, just 1 second, guys. Okay.
Let's come up and go this way and then...
All right, so now I can show you the scene here. This is where those militants first came, opening up fire on all these vehicles. There's a baby carriage down there turned over on its side. You can see over there, Clayton, if you just show in the distance there, some kind of strikes, looks like in Gaza as well. Return fire. Or is that the smoke from the rocket launches? Forgive me.
I don't know, Clarissa, but that's enough for you. There you have it. So, yeah, they got all of their big high-priced anchors and talent. They got them off their boats, home from their Hamptons mansions. Made them work this weekend. Oh, yeah, you had Anderson Cooper in there at 2 o'clock on a Saturday afternoon with the rolled-up sleeves. Wolf Blitzer. Yeah, they got people. A whole bunch of them are now over there. As a matter of fact, I think Anderson Cooper's over there now. I think I saw him this morning. Here's what I don't get. There's no reason. Okay, so Clarissa, I'm down in the, please be careful, Clarissa. We don't need you. This is like the same situation that we have with hurricanes. There is no reason for CNN news anchors to be in a war zone. They don't have to be. We don't have to do that anymore. We got cameras that you can put out there. They can be safe. They can be in the war zone. They don't have to be on the street. They can be back somewhere in a bunker. But all of this performative bullshit where they're standing now, we're going to see this for a while, and it's exciting. I'll admit it. I like it. Bombs over Baghdad and whatnot, very exciting night. But then it just seems so, you don't like, why is she out there? She doesn't need to be out there. We have drones. You could have a drone out there. Just, you know how much better a drone could be than a dude with a camera? Just put the drone out there. It can go super high, it can go super low, it can hide. It's stupid. It's performative. It's being done so that we watch it, so that it looks more dramatic, so that there is, something for us to sit through commercials for. That's all it is. No reason for it. All right, let's move on. Let's see here. What else do we have? Oh, hey, good news, guys. Oil prices are about to skyrocket. That's right. Why? Well, because it's probably just time for oil price. It's not like oil prices were going down before the Israeli thing, but now they're going to use this and oil prices are going to jump. We're going to have gas up over $5. You watch. They're going to use this as an excuse. Why? Because they've had about 50 years, since the real impact of OPEC began, they've had about 50 years to be able to use anything that happens in the news, anything. New York Giants won the Super Bowl. Hey, that's going to affect gas prices. They have conditioned us over 50 years to be okay with price hikes during any kind of internet. Doesn't matter. The war in Ukraine, gas is going to go. We don't get gas or oil from Ukraine. Yeah, but other people do, and that's going to have a trickle effect. So we don't get any gas from Israel. Well, we're not getting any gas from that part of the world. We're fine. We don't need it. But they're going to use this as an excuse for oil prices are already going nuts. So there you go. So expect gas prices to go up because, we're conditioned to go, well, we accept it. That's just what happens. No. But boat capsizes in the North Atlantic. So gas prices are going to go up. Why? Because that boat capsized. I mean, it's always, they've conditioned us to be okay with it. Jeez. X. Okay, I'll call it X for this because X is legitimately trending. X, Twitter, the thing that I used to enjoy. I did not, it's funny. I was thinking about this because Twitter, and I'm still going to call it Twitter, but even though it's X that's trending, Twitter really shit the bed this weekend. Twitter was absolute garbage this weekend. Twitter in the past, I mean, going all the way back, the first time I think I really discovered how great Twitter was for live breaking news was Ferguson. Remember Ferguson, Missouri? That's when I jumped off of Facebook and I went, no way, Twitter is great. Twitter had a very well-established journalistic wing. They had the blue checks that meant something, that like, okay, so this really is Pulitzer Prize winning Washington Post columnist, right? So you knew that's, man. Okay, so X is trending right now because everybody's very upset because of all of the bullshit that was just going around on X. Now, there was always BS, but there was a way to differentiate BS. There were a number of ways. Community notes, although that's a relatively new thing. But yes, even going back to the original purpose for the blue check. Yes, that helped you to discern who's just some guy saying something unbelievable and who's this person with a career and a reputation on the line that's saying something unbelievable. That at least gave me, the news and information consumer, some sort of a scale to weigh it with, right? Nah, that's all gone. And now you got people who are, there are people who are using the names of actual journalists who are paying for the blue checks. I followed this person. I thought it was this guy named Martin Davis, okay? Wait, is it Martin Davis? Hold on, let me find it. Let me make sure what it was. He was really good. He was a guy that I was following during the start of the Ukraine war. And he was great, man. He has really good information and intelligence from that part of the world. And he had a blue check, and he's a legit guy. He's like a writer for like the Moscow Daily, whatever. He's a writer in that part of the world. He's a good journalist, and I liked him. Well, now there's a guy going around using his name, and I'm looking at it, and he's reporting on the Israeli stuff, and I'm like, what? And he shared a video. We've received video of Hamas insurgents attacking an Israeli police station, and I'm watching this video, and I go, this is a video game. This isn't an actual. And then I look at the name and I'm like, man, is this even him? And it wasn't. It was just somebody now using somebody else's reputation. And I'm like, shit. And just small little micro issues. When the world is erupting, when chaos is afoot, I would just like to be able to have some lane that I could look at and go, All right, well, okay, this is going to be this I can at least trust, sort of. This I don't know. That's all gone. It was just absolute chaos. Video. Look at the helicopters being shot down, and I'm like, that's a video game again. And where are the community notes on these? One guy was claiming to be a former colonel or so. That's why Twitter is trending. People are upset. Because here we had a very big global issue, and people who were seriously looking for serious information couldn't find it, because now Twitter is just filled with people who are just trying to create chaos. It's just whatever. So, yeah. So I don't know what to do. I was on YouTube. I'm pretty much for global world events. I'm now on YouTube. By the way, Threads. Hey, sorry, Zuck, but Threads was also completely useless. Threads is all Instagram bullshit. It's all like stupid Instagram people. There's no seriousness to Threads. Maybe it will. Maybe Threads will change. Maybe it'll grow. Whatever. Maybe I'll get back there. I don't know. But the Threads did not do a great job of covering the outbreak of World War III. Gotta don't argue with my kid about that. This is not going to be anything. And I'm like, oh, son. And then we were trapped in the car for like 30 minutes in traffic. And so I gave him a breakdown of the Israeli issue. We began in 1947. We started with between me trying to explain to him the Israeli problem and the importance of the passing of Dick Butkus. We argued a lot this weekend, me and my 14-year-old. All right, let's move on. So X. How about this one? So this is another issue. Do you guys know what the Gang of Eight is? The Gang of Eight is an emergency group. No politics, no bullshit. Nobody cares who you voted for. Nobody cares. The Gang of Eight is a very serious group of people who get together when shit's hitting the fan, and they put all the politics aside and they simply govern. That's what the Gang of Eight is. The Gang of Eight is made up of, well, I'll tell you who the Gang of Eight is. Gang of Eight. There you go. Okay, the Gang of Eight. Let me just give you exactly what it says here. The Gang of Eight is a colloquial term for a set of 8 leaders within the United States Congress who are briefed on classified intelligence matters by the executive branch. Specifically, the Gang of Eight includes the leaders of each of the 2 parties from both the Senate and the House of Representatives, and the chairs and ranking minority members of both the Senate Committee and House Committee for Intelligence. All right, so that's what the Gang of Eight is. So when really bad shit is happening and we're about to go to war, and we need to tell people hey, we're going to let America know we're going to war. Before we do that, there is this group, the Gang of Eight. Now, the reason I felt the need to explain this is because I would not know what the Gang of Eight was were it not for the West Wing. Thank you, because I did watch the West Wing, so I learned all about it. But here's the problem. So they tried to convene a Gang of Eight this weekend because of, what with World War III possibly starting in the Middle East. And yes, it would be in conjunction with the shit going on in Ukraine. Yes, we are now starting to look at multiple fronts, multiple serious hotspots. We are starting to have to consider this as the world at war, but moving on. Couldn't do a Gang of Eight this weekend. Why? Because Matt Gaetz took a big shit on the floor of the United States Congress. We don't have a speaker, and nobody was sure if the dude who is the speaker pro tem has the intelligence clearance to be read into a Gang of Eight meeting. So they just didn't do it. So we just didn't do anything. United States government, 2023. Matt Gaetz decided to get rid of Speaker McCarthy because I don't know. And now we can't even get a Gang of Eight together to make really important decisions about, how we're going to do this. So anyway, because of this, just so you know, McCarthy has now let it be known to everybody, hey, if you guys want to backtrack a week, I can just go, I'll be speaker again, and we can just pretend that never happened. He did. I shit you not. McCarthy's like, hey, guys, maybe this is a bad time, but U.S. House Republicans plot their next move on leader as McCarthy says I'll go back. I bet you would. Washington, less than a week after becoming the first U.S. Speaker of the House of Representatives, voted out by his own caucus. Republican Kevin McCarthy said on Monday that he would take the job back as his colleagues contemplate their next move. McCarthy at a press conference stressed the need for House leaderships at a time of international crisis with Israel. That's a decision by the conference. I'll allow the conference to make whatever decision, but yes, I would serve if called. The California Republican said while laying out his own plan for the Middle East. Oh, he's got a plan. Oh, Kevin McCarthy's got isn't that nice? Let's give Kevin McCarthy a shot. What? He's got a plan now. Oh, if only this had happened a week earlier, huh? None of this nonsense. So we don't have a speaker. And McCarthy's like, I'll be speaker. And they're not just going to make a guy speaker. That's not how we do things. It's going to take forever. And they're going to fight and they're going to argue and it's going to be Meanwhile, Israel's happening, And I wonder, honestly, you got to think about all of these things. With good timing on the part of Hamas. I mean, because the reason that, nobody has really done anything to Israel, well, Israel's pretty tough, but it's also because of our presence, the United States. We're a big, looming best buddy to Israel. Nobody screws with Israel because of us. Hamas taking a look over at our shit show that we've been doing here for the last 10 days now in this country, thinking, well, they're kind of in chaos. How they have to have their Congress make every decision? Yeah, well, that Congress ain't functioning. Let's go. I mean, who knows? Who knows? Maybe it played some role. Maybe it certainly worked out in their favor not having a functioning United States Congress. While I'm sure Israel wishes we had a functioning United States Congress right now. RFK Jr., let's talk about this kook. RFK Jr. has announced that, yes, he is still running for president of these here United States of America, but RFK Jr. is now going to run as an independent. Independent. I want to be independent. What was that from? Wasn't that from Rudolph's Shiny New Year? I want to be a dentist. Independent. There was something with independent. Anyway, that's what RFK Jr. is going to do. RFK Jr. is going to go run as an independent. Why? Because he didn't have any shot as a Democrat. And he's got to raise money. That's all this is. This is just about raising money from crazy people. He didn't want to have to write a book again. And that's really what this is about. Dudes like him, grifters like RFK Jr., they write a book. First, let me explain how this is done. First, you identify a group of people who want to believe something, okay? And then you figure out what it is that they want to believe, and then you write a book about what they want to believe is true, and then you hopefully, the way he did with QAnon, you find a group that has these festivals, and you go around, you sell books, and cha-ching, cha-ching. So that grift has been amplified by RFK Jr. And he's like, hey man, I am a political name. My family is beloved by the Democrats. I don't think about the modern Democrats. I don't think they love him, but whatever. So he was going to do that. So now he is, raising money, because what do we know about raising money? When you raise money to run for president of the United States, that money goes into your campaign war chest, and you are able to use that money for whatever you need to get elected. Because remember, that's what this is about. People giving you money because they believe in what you think is right for this country. So when you decide that you don't have a chance in hell of winning, you then suspend your campaign and you take that war chest, and now you are in charge of where that money goes, because you're not running. And you are now in charge of the money that the people who trusted you are now in charge of all of that money. How might you spend it? On a new car for yourself? Well, maybe you might have to drive. You might have to drive around to see other people speaking to decide who you're going to endorse. Maybe you're going to do it. Maybe you're going to pay. You're going to start here's what you're going to do. You're going to start a political action committee. You're going to start a PAC, and you're going to take that money and you're going to put that money in the PAC. You're going to pay yourself a really kick-ass salary out of that money, and you'll spend the next 3 years until the next election cycle living off of that money, at which point you will then run again and you will make more. That's how the game is played. That's how they do it. RFK Jr. running as an independent. Are you nuts? Now, all this does is it ensures that he'll be allowed to raise money right up until election day. That's all this is about. Him running as an independent isn't about, I don't subscribe to either party. No, it's about with either party, he probably would have had to stop and wrap up his campaign much earlier. Now he can keep doing these, vaccine conferences and selling books and raising money for his political campaign off of, people who want to believe in the stuff that he's talking about. And that, my friend, is how he makes money for the next few years. Doesn't have a chance in hell at winning. And quite frankly, as an independent, this is not going to be good for Trump. So here's what you need to look for. You need to look for the attacks on RFK Jr. from Trump to begin in 3, 2, and here they come. Yeah. RFK Jr. is running as an independent. Who was the last guy? I think the only guy to ever really have any success at that was, I remember Ross Perot. People talk about Ross Perot, but also John Anderson. John Anderson in 1980. John Anderson ran as an independent in 1980, and he wasn't a complete afterthought. I mean, he made some waves. I was 10 years old. I remember him. All right, let's see here. Bill Belichick is trending. Why is Bill Belichick trending? Because he might get fired. Oh, they're talking about Bill Belichick being on the hot seat. That's right. The greatest football coach in the history of football. He's a good coach, I guess. But I remember when he was the coach of the Browns. That's how much of an old head I am. Like, every time people are like, Belichick is the greatest coach of all time, I'm like, I remember when he coached the Browns. He wasn't the greatest coach of all time. They do that with Pete Carroll, too. Pete Carroll is a genius. He wasn't when he was with the Jets. Pete Carroll was kind of a moron when he was with the Jets. Now he's a genius. Belichick is done. What's he going to do? Is Belichick going to go coach somewhere else? No. Could you imagine you'll end up Bill Belichick coaching the Las Vegas Raiders, just something, the Carolina Panthers, Bill Belichick. Hey, go down there in Jacksonville, right? You could see that, couldn't you? Although, who they got down there? Doug Peterson. Yeah. Anyway, Bill Belichick's on the hot seat because the Patriots suck, because he ain't won dick since Tom Brady left. And by the way, I don't know the story here. I just don't like Bill Belichick. I don't like him. He's gruff. He's whatever. I don't know. Is he a good coach? Sure, I guess. Yeah, ostensibly he's a good coach. But is he like a great coach, or did he just benefit from, I don't know. I have the same issue with Phil Jackson as far as the NBA goes. Like, look, Phil Jackson was the coach of my team, the Bulls. I got no problem with what Phil Jackson did as head coach of the Bulls. But I also know that was Doug Collins' team. And I know that, Phil Jackson didn't exactly do anything all that different than what Doug Collins was doing. Doug Collins got fired for something going on. Doug Collins was getting ready to win 6 championships the way Phil Jackson did. And then I think Doug Collins, the rumor is that I don't even know that Jerry Reinsdorf, owner of the Bulls, has a daughter. But the stories are that there was something about Doug Collins, the coach of the Bulls, and the owner of the team's daughter. And then all of a sudden, Doug Collins is no longer the coach of the Bulls. And we're like, wait, what? The Bulls are really good. Why did they fire him? And then this dude, Phil Jackson, comes in. So Phil Jackson is giving that team, he wins. Then he goes to Los Angeles and he wins again, but he's got Shaq and Kobe. He had Scotty, he had Michael, and then he had Shaq. So, I'm like, Phil Jackson, all right. Yes, terrific coach. However, let's not pretend like he didn't have superstar talent to work with that other coaches would never sniff in their entire career. I kind of feel that way about Bill Belichick. And I know that it's interesting that, because I'm also not a great fan of Tom Brady, but I think now, after all of these years, and now Tom Brady is out of the league, I can begrudgingly say that I think it's pretty clear Tom Brady's the greatest quarterback in the history of the NFL. I didn't like it because I didn't like Brady. I didn't like that he came out of nowhere. It's like, what? Who's this guy? I actually remember him at Michigan. He was very forgettable. He was a very forgettable guy. And then all of a sudden, You know, as the 2000s roll on, we got to start thinking about Tom Brady as like the greatest quarterback of all time. I'm like, it's very Brock Purdy-ish. Very Brock Purdy-ish. I'm going through this with Brock Purdy right now. Like I said, going into the game last night, I was not sold on Brock Purdy. I'm like, okay, when's the other shoe going to drop? And it hasn't. And it never did for Tom Brady. I spent a decade waiting for Tom Brady to be exposed as the lame 5th-round pick from Michigan. Never happened. Not going to happen with Brock Purdy either. Anyway, there you have it. Anyway, Bill Belichick's team sucks because Mac Jones is not Tom Brady. And, you know, they got mollywopped just, 35-0, 25-0, something like that. They got their ass kicked. They got one game. They're 1-4, I think, the Patriots. They missed the playoffs the last couple of years, and that is not something that the New England Patriots are used to. So Bill Belichick is on the hot seat. All right, here's something coming. Here's a little something you should be excited about. This is coming to your TV sets in the next couple of days. Frasier. Do you like Frasier? The Frasier reboot. The Frasier reboot is coming. I never really liked Frasier. I mean, I've seen like I know Frasier. Like if you were like, if you made a Frasier joke around me, I'd probably get it because I've seen enough of. I didn't watch it every week, and it wasn't like I love Frasier. It's must-see TV. But I watched it enough that I was familiar with it. I just always found it to be a bit elitist. I always felt it was a little smug, you know, a little bit like rich people comedy. I was like, I don't need this. Yeah, what are you, smart guy talking down to me? I just always, although, look, I will give this. It's funny. It's well written, great performances. John Mahoney's a beast. He's awesome. All right, so Frasier is coming back. It's been off the air for 20 years. It's coming back. Peacock? Yeah, Peacock. It's going to be a 10-episode miniseries on Peacock. The all-new Frasier. Here's some things you need to be prepared about, though. By the way, when does this start? The 12th. I think it starts on the 12th. So 3 days. Is it the 12th? October 12th. Yes. Okay. So it's going to debut on October the 12th. Here's what you need to know about the new Frasier. Okay. That's changed. 30 years has gone by, and they are going to explain 30 years have gone by. A lot of people are dead. Of course, Dad's dead. Eddie's dead. They're dead. He's no longer in Seattle. Frasier is no longer in Seattle 30 years later. Frasier is now back in Boston. That's right, where everybody knows his name. Frasier's back in Boston. And I think he's like, so in the 30 years since we last left Frasier, he was doing a afternoon drive talk show in Seattle. He was a doctor, right? He was like a Dr. Laura. So here we are 30 years later. He's now in Boston. And guess what he's been doing for those 30 years? He was Dr. Phil. That's right. Frasier, the Frasier that we meet today, has just retired from 20 years of doing a wildly successful daytime talk show. So he's basically now a celebrity. So now the Frasier crane now he's not just a Seattle celebrity. Now he's a bona fide Dr. Phil type. Dr. Drew, whatever you want. Who else is in this show? Well, here, I'll read it to you. All right, so here's what it says about this. Is a review for the new Frasier show. Actually, Dr. Frasier Crane is so unobtrusively back in the Paramount Plus revival, debuting on October 12th, that it's truly as if Kelsey Grammer's pompous and often hilarious psychiatrist character never left. In an industry awash with alternative timelines as plot points almost as much as it is with creatively barren reboots and reunions, perhaps it would be better to peg the Frasier revival not as something new at all, but neither something old. Perhaps a more crystalline perspective would be to view this Frasier as simply the charmingly chugging along 30th season of the beloved and acclaimed Cheers spinoff. Okay, that's fine. You could do that, but you just have to pretend like you've missed the last 10 seasons. While clearly a subscriber lunge for Paramount Plus in this age of streamer contradictions, this 10-episode revival, the new Frasier, it's going to be 10 episodes. This 10-episode revival is indeed so blatantly a throwback to the very different era of television that to try to taint it as mere nostalgia is to miss the point. A little thinner on top, a little meatier around the middle, and sometimes a bit slower in its sitcom delivery, Frasier 3.0 emerges eternally. Frasier 3.0 emerges eternally itself in an ever-changing world and media landscape. From the Too Loud studio, blah, 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 blah. Okay, what else? So give us some, tell us what's happening here. Of course, Frasier did end almost 20 years ago, and time kept moving on in the real world and also on the small screen. To that end, Frasier is a bona fide celebrity now. Grammer's vainglorious Frasier moves with a stiffness he never had before, yet for a man of 68, he can still fumble the most straightforward of emotional interactions with disdain. Grammer's Frasier can also still block a kitchen door for comic effect. Granted, this third act of Frasier, Grammer has described the Chris... all right, never mind. Anyway, apparently his kid Freddie is now like a fireman in Boston, and that's why he's in Boston. Remember Freddie? Him and Lilith. Remember Frasier and Lilith had Freddie? Frederick? Freddie's apparently supposed to be... Okay, so in the original Frasier, the character of the father was created specifically to be the voice of the middle class, to be the voice of the blue collar. Remember how I said I didn't like Frasier because it was way too elitist? Well, it's because Niles and Frasier and all the elitist. The Frasier's dad character was created specifically to knock these two stuck-up rich people down a few pegs. So he's dead. John Mahoney's dead. So you need that character. That's part of the whole dynamic that made Frasier work. You need him to be playing. So what do? They replaced the father, and now it's the son. So now the blue-collar mindset, the guy that's going to, think that Frasier's a bit soft and a bit frilly and a bit of a fancy man, that kind of thing, that is no longer going to be his father. It's going to be Freddie. It says here... let's see. The revival now has a Boston skyline on the title card instead of Seattle. There's an updated version of the soundtrack song, Tossed Salad and Scrambled Eggs, and making sure everyone knows his name, Frasier himself is just coming off a lucrative run as a TV talk show host. Additionally, the absence of the late John Mahoney, that was his dad, and haughtily sibling Niles. All right, so so he's dead, but Niles ain't in it either. Let's see. David Hyde Pierce is not in it. Jane Leeves is not in it as Daphne. All right. So Jane Leeves and Niles aren't in it. Then again, you'll never get those people to admit they like a revival. All right, whatever. Apparently, it's Frasier, Freddie, who is a fireman in Boston. Freddie is his son, and Frasier's nephew, who is the child of Niles and Daphne. Apparently, Niles and Daphne's kid is also going to be a big character in this. It's played by Anders Keith as Frasier's Ivy League attending nephew, David, son of long happily married Niles and Daphne. All right, so there you go. So David is probably going to be a little D-bag, right? And then his cousin, Frederick, is going to be the blue-collar guy. There you have it. All right, Frasier. I don't know if I'll watch it. I'll watch the first episode. I was not a big Frasier fan. I love Cheers. Cheers is a great show. Was not a big Frasier fan. Honestly, of all the Cheers spinoffs, I think the Tortellis was the best one. That's right. But the Tortellis, nobody watched the Tortellis. Tortellis was a dud. People liked Frasier. All right, we got a death here over the weekend. A Food Network guy. You guys know Food Network stuff? I don't really know Food Network stuff. Food Network guy, Michael Chiarello. He's a young guy, 57 years old, it says here. He dropped dead. Well, he didn't drop dead. He dropped sick, and then he died in the hospital. He had an allergic reaction to something. He ate something. You guys know who Michael Chiarello is? I don't know the Food Network guys, but I've seen him. Like I saw the picture of him. I'm like, oh, that dude. Yeah, but I don't know him. That's too bad, man. I'm telling you, keep telling you. Our next breath is not guaranteed. This dude just ate something. He's probably like, yeah. And then I said to her, there's good. Hold on. And now he's dead. That's life, man. C'est la vie. Be nice to the next person you see. That's all I'm saying. Just be cool to the next person you see, because no reason to be a dick. We're all here for a very short period of time. All right, moving on. Let's see. What else do we have? This is the last story that I have for you today. Here you go. Powerball. The Powerball. Powerball. Who's into the Powerball? You like the Powerball? I like the Powerball. What is going on here with the lotteries? Whether it's Mega Millions or Powerball, it seems like every single day one of these is over $1 billion now. The Powerball has rolled over again. Last week, for like 3 days in a row, it was Mega Millions, Mega Millions, Mega Millions. Well, now it's Powerball. There was a Powerball game tonight. There is a drawing this evening, and it is $1.55 billion. I don't know what the difference between Powerball and Mega Millions is. I don't know. I just know that they're the two big ones. Why would you play anything else? Like, why would you just, like, is there like a normal lottery? It's like, well, what do I get if I win? Well, you win $100, son. Is anybody playing that? Like, I remember, like, isn't there like a pick three? Like, pick 3 numbers. Like, and then you can win like, $20. Is that still a thing? Or is it all just Powerball? I've got my Powerball ticket. Do you have yours? Screams the headline. I buy at least one ticket every time the Powerball jackpot gets close or exceeds 1 billion. I know the odds of actually winning the grand prize are astronomical. But I just love dreaming about how I would spend the money. Isn't that true? That is exactly how I feel about it. I ain't got $2 to spend on a Powerball ticket. I ain't got $2 to spend on a Powerball ticket. But on some level, I'm like, $2. When I buy the ticket, like in that moment, I'm going to be like, man, this could be it. Whoo, here we go. Do you dare allow yourself to have that moment of hope, of dream? You better. Why wouldn't you? Did I not just tell you about the Food Network guy who took a bite of something and dropped dead? Why wouldn't you allow yourself this moment of hope, of you ain't going to win. I know that. You ain't going to win. I ain't going to win. Ain't nobody we're going to know going to win. You know who's going to win? Somebody's going to win. We're going to see a picture of the person who won, and we're all going to go, why did that guy win? That guy doesn't look any more special than, right? That's who's going to win. Somebody, and you're going to be like, that guy? It's not going to be you. It's not going to be me. It's going to be that guy. That guy's out there. He's out there walking around. He's about to be a billionaire. That guy. It's always that guy, too. It's never that girl. Did you ever notice that? It's never that girl. It's always that guy. Person who wins the lotto, the big, it's always that guy. It's never that girl. Anyway, it's up to $1.55 billion. Let's see. Tonight's Powerball drawing features an estimated grand prize of $1.55 billion. If there's a winner tonight, he or she will have the option of receiving that amount in 30 annual payments. What? No. Let's see. 30 annual payments or taking a one-time lump sum cash payment of approximately $679.8 million. Yeah, of course, right? I mean, what I wouldn't give to exist in a society that I completely believed would still be functioning in 30 years. I would love that. If I thought I lived in a society where 30 years from now, everything's going to be the same as it is right now, if I thought that were true, I would take the annuities. I would let them pay me every year, and I would get that full $1.55 billion. But unfortunately, I don't trust this country. So I just want my big bag of gold. Just give me my big bag of gold, and then I'll just go move to an island somewhere with all my guns and dogs. And, of course, school for girls. I'll have a school for runaway girls on the island as well, where they can learn and all of that stuff. Let's see here. Tonight's Powerball drawing 1.55, $679 million if you just take the chunk money. Uncle Sam's going to wet his beak and takes his share of taxes as well, and your state might take a piece of your winnings too. Not here in Texas. That's a good thing about being in Texas. There ain't no state taxes. Just old Uncle Sam. So what if you're not a citizen of America? Like, what if you're from Canada and you're in America and you buy a lottery ticket and you win? Do you have to pay? Oh, but are you gonna have to pay the Canadian taxes on it? I don't know. I don't know how that works. I don't know how that works. But remember, folks, we have an agreement because this show runs on your tips. We need your tip. We didn't have anybody tipping the show this week, so we don't have a sponsor for today's show or an executive producer for today's show. But if the agreement has to be that first of all, if I were to win like $659 million, here's what I could promise you. Everybody who's ever tipped the show will get at least $100,000. That's right. I mean, I'd have to look at how many people have actually tipped this show because it's not that many. It's like the same people. So some of you might. Here's what I'll do. Everybody will get 100 times what they've tipped the show. Hey, that's not bad. I don't know. We'll work it out. But flip side of that is if you guys win the Powerball, come on, man, fund the show. Like fund it for real. Like fund it for like the next year. Come on, man. All right. Sardia. Thank you. Tonight, Radio Misfits. James and I are going to be back in a few hours. We're going to be doing the Radio Misfits thing. That's where James and I talk about the world. So come join us tonight at 9 o'clock for Radio Misfits. Let's see, do I have anything else? Nope, I don't think so. I think that's about it. Thank you so much I know this was a different show because normally we do this at noon and today we had to do it at 3 because we had some issues. We had not issues. We had things that I had to do. Tomorrow is going to be a later than regular show as well. Tomorrow, maybe about 1 or so. I'll know more tomorrow afternoon or tomorrow morning, so I'll keep you abreast. But tomorrow's show will not start at high noon as well. Tomorrow's show will be, I don't know. I don't think it'll be like 3. It won't be as late as today's show was, although it might be. I don't know what's going on. My phone is not working. How long do I have to try and fill time before the Spotify will load? It's just spinning and spinning. There we go. There we go.
I have got my poetry.
Poetry.
I have got my songs. They see me through the lonely nights. Help me to be strong. I am like the dancing bear.
Frank was with us today. Let's see. I'm trying to see who's the big chatties in the chat room. Big chatters.
I can smile.
Frank, Barney,
Things are going good.
Mike, Sally's here. Byron was in here today. Ross, we got Ross. What does Ross say?
That is understood.
Ross says that Julian Lennon was his first ever concert.
A multi-answer test. I am on a never-ending quest. Tomorrow is another day.
Yeah, look, I would love to talk about the Rangers. I'm just scared, man. Like I really like they're ahead in my mind. They're ahead of schedule, and I've been through a lot of baseball heartbreak the past 3 years. It's been really difficult for me, so I just don't want to fall into this with the Rangers. But man, what a fun team to watch, and I hope you're enjoying it. And they're gonna be good for a while. All right, I gotta go. Love you guys. We'll see you tonight at 9 o'clock for Radio Misfits. Tip the show if you can. If not, I still love you. Bye, everybody.
That is all I need. I don't need no 401. I don't have their greed. Down the road I'll travel, far from the comfort nest. I am on a never-ending quest. Tomorrow is another day. The best is yet to come. I have found a different way, so baffling to some. I can smile a little now. Things are going good. I always had to be